But at the same time, of course, it's hard to recognize the mind, but therefore recognize what is the object. Okay, so as you walk, what does my mind perceive? You just ask yourself, I perceive the road, I perceive the cold, I perceive the wind, I perceive... So you just focus and like, what does the mind apprehend and what appears? Is there anything that appears but I'm not aware of? It logically makes sense that there are things that appear but we're not aware of. Are there things we're aware of but actually don't appear? Right? And just through your own experience, become aware of something appearing, something being apprehended. It can be both, right? If you look at the road, it appears and you apprehend it. Okay? So to pay more attention to that, to be because what the mind does, the mind in a way is an agent. In other words, not an agent, not a spy agent, but something that does something. The mind always does something. So an agent is something that acts. And it always has an object. So what is the main action that a mind engages in? It is experiencing something, perceiving something, perception. Perceive something, experiences something. So if you become aware of the object, you may also become aware of what the mind does with it. And here I'm not even dividing it into sense consciousness and mental consciousness. Never mind, you don't need to go into that. If you just think of whether it's sense consciousness, whether it's mental consciousness, what am I perceiving? What is the object? What am I perceiving? Okay? Just be aware of that. And to note that, it's just become aware of the different thoughts, right? So, just to observe, just to be a silent observer, note it, don't judge it. If you can see it with humor, right? And just become aware, be aware of your own mind, okay? Of the object, what appears, etc. So, in other words, what you've learned tonight, put that into practice. Okay? All right.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Can I ask now?
Yeah, okay. Sure. One question.
There are two definitions here.
Mm-hmm.
The words which we define, the differentum, are synonymous.
The words?
Awareness and consciousness are synonymous.
That's right.
And also, the definitions, obviously, a knower is also luminescent knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And that which is luminescent knowing is a knower.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we use just one definition, like that which is luminescent knower, and add a knower to one of the words, mind, consciousness, awareness, knower. Is there any use for the different definitions?
Well, the thing is, like, when these definitions were created, right? So basically her question is, like, you have awareness, you have consciousness, and one part of the definition of awareness is knower. So it seems to be one part of the other definition, which is that which is luminous and knowing. So it's like, what? Well, it doesn't really make sense. Give me a new word. Okay. Now, my sense of it is that when those definitions were created, there was already a certain understanding of consciousness. We need to think back that when these definitions came about, they came about in India, where there was already a very sophisticated tradition of looking at the mind, of consciousness, etc. So, I don't know exactly how this came about, but there was definitely a sense of the emphasis of more awareness from the point of view of knowing something, right? So this was how awareness was described, not in the context we know it, but in the Buddhist context at the time. So, knowing something, knowing by way of appearance, or just knowing. That was one emphasis. And then with regard to consciousness, it added the fact that not only do you know, but things also appear to you. So I cannot tell you historically how that came about, and it may not be so helpful, but this is just presenting it, and you pick the parts that you find most helpful. Yeah. So in the end, like I said, I cannot say exactly. And I don't like the first one, knower, so much. I prefer, and that's the one that you hear about again and again, that which is luminous and knowing. That which is clear and knowing. That is usually accepted to be a good definition. All right. Anyway, so let's leave it. Yes? Yeah?
Between appearance and apprehension,
apprehending, where do you put perceive? Is it one of the two or another?
Apprehending, appearing, and thinking?
No, perceiving.
Ah.
Or is it just an English word that means one of the other? Or the other?
This is where it becomes really hard to use English words. Perceiving, apprehending, appearing. Well, I don't know. It depends on how you define perceiving. I often use them interchangeably. You perceive and apprehend something. Yes, that's how I would, not with appearance. Appearance is more like this passive, just appearance of something. And then perception is like you apprehend, you perceive. It's kind of like holding. Okay? Yes. All right. Okay. That should be enough. And I see you tomorrow morning. Let's dedicate. All right. So we'll, as you're aware, we'll do a dedication at whatever positive potential we have accumulated here, for that not to go wasted. That's just the power of the mind again, that we can actually use this positive potential and allow this to become a cause for our own mental development, for our transformation of the mind, so that we be of greater benefit to ourselves and others, and eventually attain the awakened state of a Buddha. So with this in mind.
בעמוד 19, אחר כך 18. בזכות חסד זה, לו השיג במהרה את מצב הברור בודה, ולו הוביל למצב זה את כל הנודדים עד אחד. בתודעת ההערה העילאית תקרת הערך שטרם נולדה תיוולד, וזו שנולדה לא תתנוון ותשגה עוד ועוד. בארץ זו המוקפת בכסי ערים ושלבים, מקור הרווחה והעושר ללא יוצא מן הכלל, אבל את כשבר הרב העוצמה תן זנגיאצות, ותיוותר עד הקצבים.
Okay. Have a good night and see you tomorrow morning.